Actually, they are going to pull it. Happened to live. So this will be interesting.
Ron, did you want your original back?
Probably signed an oath.
I did, and I had it notarized. I was doing pretty good until this year, then after that. Yes, yeah.
So you can,
We could ceremonially repeat it if you want.
no, that's okay.
I can have her go get it.
I think keeping tabs on rolls.
Is he? Okay.
How do you know it's a motel?
Elected officials.
Morning, everyone. This is the Assessment Appeal Board for July 18th, 2011. And
Oh, I see.
we have a new member that I'd like to welcome on. Lance Morris is from District 1. 2. Alternate 1. So in effect, you're an alternate today. But you're from District 2, and we'd like to welcome you to our board. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting to public comment. Anyone from the public that would like to come and make a statement, welcome to do so. Seeing and hearing none, okay, we'll move on to board members, staff, and assessors' comments. And I understand that Mr. Hill does have comments today.
Well, that's technically number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so in effect, basically, is there any members of the board or the staff who'd like to make any comments prior?
I think we should recognize the old guy over on the.
Al, would you like to stand up and be recognized? This is our prior AAB member, was chairman for, how long were you on the board? Long enough for him to be an establishment here. So welcome to our meeting. Then, Mr. Hill, would you like to make your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Baird, who brought to my attention I was remiss in showing up this morning without some copies for you.
Oh, well.
Those are for your reference. We'll talk a little bit about those items as we go along, but those would be for your reference. Good morning. Welcome to the third Monday in July. This is our, what we call our 1604 meeting, or the Revenue and Taxation Code 1604. We're supposed to meet the third Monday of July to start the equalization process, as the old term say, and then meet thereafter, handle all these assessments. So, as Mr. Hartkessel did for 24 times before me, he met with this board, actually with the board of supervisors prior to establishing the Assessment Appeal Board. And I'll give you some updates, things that are happening in the assessment world. It'll be kind of scripted here. I've got some statistics and things that we'll kind of talk about on July 24th, pardon me, June 24th. We delivered the 2011-12 tax roll. In past years, we had requested a 30-day extension. We did not do that this year, so we submitted the tax roll prior to the July 1 deadline. The tax roll for this year was a little over $26.8 billion. Actually, $26,804,868. That was the net county tax roll. The gross was a little over 27.8. That difference reflects the exemptions that are pulled off of the tax roll. We had nearly 173,000 total assessments, 172,966 assessments. That's broken down with a little over 150,000 secured and nearly 23,000 unsecured. This is a 0.9 ago, we saw a decline in the assessed roll as we saw the year before.
How much was, I'm sorry, how much was the decline again?
0.92%. So nearly a flat roll, but still slightly down. Closer look as far as the communities, we saw Exeter with a decline of a little over 5%, Farmersville with a decline of a little almost 4%, Porterville a little over 3% decline, Tulare nearly 3% decline, Visalia a little over a 1% decline, Woodlake nearly 2% decline. Interestingly enough, though, we did see two communities, two cities that showed an increase in assessed value. Dinuba was one, a little over 2%, and then Lindsay, a little over 1.5%. As to the reasons for those increases, we're not really sure. They are smaller in total, and so it wouldn't take much of a change to affect the total assessment. Not really sure. We're still looking at that. So if you have any thoughts, we'd like you to share it as far as why we saw that increase. Interestingly, the assessments for the county outside, for the unincorporated areas, increased by about 0.4%. And we feel it's greatly attributable to the increase in the Williamson Act, the ag assessments. We're seeing a fairly strong ag business and strong agricultural valuations. And we saw, I got that a little later, I'll get the increases in the assessed values reflected in the Williamson Act. Closer to home, the assessment appeals activities, that's been of key interest to all of us because the assessment appeals issues are very labor intensive. And we saw that peak of nearly 4,000 assessments, a little over 3,800 assessments in 2008. And that just sent everybody in shock. Years past, normal would have been around what we would have had, maybe 500.
That would probably been on the high side, yeah.
Probably like I said, a little high side. And then we saw, coming into 07, we saw 1,300 assessments, and then 08, at 3,872. And then dropped quite a bit in 09, it's nearly just shy of 1,700, and then 2010, a little over 1,200. So we're seeing it go in the right direction. We're seeing a positive aspect of that, but still, for the 4-year total, over 8,000 assessment appeals, that is staggering. It presents a real challenge for the board staff, and our staff is incredibly so. So hopefully, I don't know, any guesses as to what we might have for 11, 12? I'm hoping around 700.
How many have we had so far into?
I don't know. I think, of course, the 11, 12 has just started, and I don't know if there's any tracking on it yet.
Not for 11, 12, but 2008, we had close to 4,000. 2009, I think we had about 1,800, and the same for 2010.
So, one of the ways we're hoping to really take the edge off of these is that Prop 8, that automated valuation technique that we have been using since 2008. We originated that, initiated it in 2008, and we now have over 43,000 properties under that program. So this is, we hope, it's taking a huge number of assessments that would have gone to assessment appeal, and we're addressing them with this automated valuation method. I think we now, for 11 and 12, currently are reducing the tax roll by about $2.7 billion. So it's a significant program. And for 2011, 12, was an additional $600 million taken off the tax roll on this property program. So it's just an indication as to what we're seeing with the real estate market, specifically residential. It's still not yet. I fear that it's going to be a while before we see any improvement. Regarding the Williamson Act update, kind of recap, we have 14,361 properties being assessed under the Williamson averages about $150 per parcel, additional tax, with some being very low, some being in the range of $1, $2, to some being $2,000, $3,000 for additional taxes. And the reason this may affect the assessment appeals issue is because it brings to light, brings out of that file that never saw the light of day, it brings out that Prop 13 value. If we have a Prop 13 value that is not consistent with current market, then we may have some assessment appeals matters brought to this board to hear an assessment, Prop 13 issue. From a market standpoint. Let's see. The good news from our unsecured assessment, by the way, I should have done this during the introductions. Mr. Ron Medlock, our chief audit appraiser, will be here representing the office on unsecured assessment. Mr. Tim Kokendorfer is our chief appraiser, and he'll be here representing the office on real property matters. And Julia Langley, county counsel, is here assisting the assessor's office in our assessment appeals issues. And then from time to time, we see other staff members here who will prepare assessment appeals and work on them to present as well. Getting back to the unsecured assessments, we did see an increase of about 4% in our unsecured assessment valuations. A couple of the items that oftentimes come here, enter into contention are boats and aircraft. Seems like we get complaints about them quite a bit, it seems like. We have nearly 7,700 boat assessments and just shy of 500 aircraft assessments. And when I say boats, it's basically all watercraft, so a lot of jets. And that's the information that I had for you this morning. And on behalf of the entertain any questions, comments, we appreciate the work that you do as a board, certainly, and staff, and we give you our assurance that those matters that end up here, or we have worked them diligently and in all efforts to try to settle them prior.
I had one question. What did you say was happened to the overall tax roll year to
The
year?
overall tax roll went down 0.92% from last year.
Dollar value of that would be, do you know, just offhand?
The dollar value that will,
Of the-
nearly just shy of $27 billion on the assessed roll.
It went
But-
down about 2 billion.
Oh, 2 billion? Okay.
And if you're taking 1% of it, yes. Of course, the tax rate certainly is much higher than 1%. And then the county receives their share, it's about 16% of the tax dollars.
Any other questions, board members? Mr. Hill, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very enlightening.
For your time, and Mr. Hardcastle did this 24 times, I doubt you'll see that.
We wouldn't mind.
And if there's any other chance to come here, I will always look forward to the invite.
Thank you.
Thank you. One other housekeeping item, we have a office memorandum dated July 6, 2011, which we'll take up in our closed session. If we are ready to hear our first case, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. And at this point, we can go ahead and have the first applicant come up and swear in the assessor and the applicant simultaneously.
But are you doing number 4? Yeah, that won't be, the assessor won't be involved in that because that's a petition to
Okay.
have it deemed timely.
Should we just go ahead and have them sworn in now, or should we wait till the first item that they,
I think it'd be better to have the assessor wait till the first one where they're actually going to testify.
very good. So the applicant for number 4, and I have a problem with this particular item in the sense that they're being represented by Don Kaplan, which is my CPA, and so I'm going to recuse myself of this case and hand it over to who would be the person that would be next in line.
Do we have a vice chair? I can't remember. Mr. McKinley? Okay.
So, Mr. McKinley, would you like to assume the chairman's position for agenda item number 4?
Yes, sir, thank you. Mr. Kaplan,
Yes.
would you please come forward and make your presentation? Good morning.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before the Assessment Appeals Board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Padma LLC. We have 6 applications. Application number 2010-00544 through 2010-00549. APN number 066-100-008-000, and they're for the years 2004 through 2009.
And what is the issue?
The applications were filed on November 15, 2010, and they were accepted by staff as timely filed because the applicant indicated on the application that the date of notice was November 1st, 2010. However, because the notice was not attached to the applications, our staff should have verified the date of notice with the assessor's office. After being notified by John Roller that these applications were not timely filed, we obtained a copy of the notice from the assessor's office for verification. The date of the notice was August 24, 2010, therefore confirming that the applications were filed outside of the 60-day filing period. We then immediately sent a letter to the applicant notifying him of the untimely filing.
Go ahead.
That's correct. So the application for change of assessment was filed as a result of a business property audit that was going on during September and October. In November 1, we received a notice of the audit findings, which really, that's what triggered the appeal. We weren't aware of the assessment. This was a new client, and we weren't aware of the August 24th date. So we filed it as a result of the audit. And in preparation for the audit, we found that the values of the physical property didn't support the assessments, weren't supported by the assessments. So we filed the appeal. I wasn't aware of the other date, the August 24th date, as a marker for the 60 days. I was using the audit, the auditor's findings date. And that's the only reason for filing it November 15th. As soon as we got the audit report, we got the appeal forms and filed.
Counsel, do we have any advice from you as what?
Well, I'm just curious. I would, normally, doesn't the, if I can ask the assessor a question, was that for some other
Yes.
escape
Actually,
assessment?
things that-
So
Two
wouldn't
things going on.
there be a audit finding and then a subsequent escape?
That's true. The actual enrollment that we're here today on these application numbers were not the result of an audit. They were the result of a property statement that was filed in 2009, and an enrolled escape was done based on, because this particular taxpayer had not filed for some years and had filed reporting no property for other years. So during our processing season, it was discovered that there was equipment out there that had not been reported in these prior years. The applicant had, or the taxpayer had filed 0, so we did an escaped assessment, and that escaped assessment actually took place, let's see, August 24th, 2010. Actual, under 531.8, the law requires that we notify the taxpayer at least 10 days before the enrollment takes place that there is going to be an escaped assessment. And that notice went out on August 10th of 2010. And then 10 days later, we make the assessment. In the meantime, because it was a lot of money, this thing was assigned as an audit, as a secondary consideration, just to be sure that the numbers were correct. And that's the audit that he's talking about. And that audit actually did result in changes to the assessments. Some of them were lowered. I don't think there was any escapes. I don't recall right offhand. But there were two different issues. One that we're here is not the audit results. They're here on the escaped
It's
assessment.
an earlier activity. Yeah, that makes more sense.
So there was an escape assessment or not?
There was an escaped assessment. Actually, normally under the law, we would go back 4 years to do an escaped assessment. In this case, we went back 8 because there was, the taxpayer had reported 0 equipment in 5 years, which resulted in escapes that were greater than, under guidelines that were acceptable, so we went back.
Was there an escape assessment as a result of the audit?
Actually, let me tell you, I think I can answer that question for you. There were actually refunds for 3 years. The audit only covered 4 years. And there was an additional escape for 2009.
So how, just to help me a little bit, so how late is this filing? In other words, how late are they by calendar? I mean, is it,
At least a month.
I was going to
If
say,
they were in
is it
August.
60 days?
Yeah, because it'd be the middle of October probably.
So there's 60,
So what we had going on is that there's 2 separate events. We have the failure of the taxpayer to file the 571s and then filing with zeros or whatever happened. And so they went back and looked
Right.
then. And that's what generated the escapes in August that are at issue here. And my advice then is that there isn't anything your board can do about that because their 60 days ran out before the appeal was filed. Separate issue is whether there was going to be an appeal based on the audit results. And we don't know anything about that because that's not before us today. I'm assuming there was not an appeal filed within 60 days on those specific ones because there was an escape on 1 year.
We actually did not, the additional escape for 2009 that was discovered during the audit was not enrolled. It was so small, so we didn't even enroll it, although it would definitely be subject to an appeal even though it wasn't enrolled under the law. You don't have to enroll it, you just have to find the change for 2009. But the other 3 years that were audited were actually refunds, and those refunds were processed.
So it's just late.
Kaplan, do you have any response?
That's basically it. The deadline, as I understand it, for the appeal was October 25th, and our appeals were filed November 15th. We filed those, we were engaged because of the audit, not because of filing 571 or proposed escape assessment.
Now, I also might add, I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to proceed, but there is another process whereby you can file a claim for refund, which is done outside of this assessment appeals board. Requires basically the same documentation and so forth, and it's reviewed. And that claim for refund can be filed anytime within 4 years of payment of the taxes. Now, the taxes do have to be paid under that code section, but it is another option that you can go if this doesn't work.
there anything else you'd like to add?
That's it.
I don't, Mr. Young, do you have an opinion or something you'd like to say?
No, if we're bound, by,
Our board has a very limited jurisdiction.
I understand that now, conducting my research.
I believe then that there is no choice but for the chair to rule that it was not timely filed and go from there. I think we have no other option. Thank you so much.
Michelle, would you like a formal vote on that? So it'd be tidier for her records if you did a formal motion and
a
vote.
motion and all.
Yeah.
And so we're going to consider the late filing denied. Is that what you want? Okay. Well, I move then that on agenda item number 4, for Padma LLC, application numbers 2010000544 through 00549, that they have not met the legal requirements for late filing, and that this request has been therefore denied.
I guess there's only two of us.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Carried. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I return the meeting to you.
We'll move on to agenda number 5. Lab Hada, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Would the clerk swear in the applicant, and at this time, can we now swear in the assessor or not ready?
We're still not ready.
Okay, all right, okay. Swear in the applicant, and then move forward.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before the Assessment Appeals Board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Application number 2009-000, did I say 4 zeros? 04, APN 093-031-023-000. Application number 2009-00005, APN 093-031-022-000.
Mr. Chairman, if I may have a preliminary note. Under your rules, the way it works is that when they don't show up, the clerk sends out a notice, and then they can file a petition for reconsideration. And the normal way you handle that is you don't necessarily go on to the merits, even if you grant the petition. You set it for another day. And so it depends on the parties as to whether they wish to. Right. So normally you wouldn't go on to the merits today.
Okay.
The assessor could waive that if they wanted to, but
So as our legal counsel has framed the issue, why should we reconsider this application?
My letter actually got mailed out to the wrong address. By the time the post office mailed it back to the correct address twice, twice to the wrong address and once to the right one, and so we tried from Oregon to Fairfield, California. It was on the day of the meeting. So by
So
the
in other
time,
words, the change of address went to Oregon?
because all my letters were coming from here to Oregon.
Okay.
I got changed twice in Oregon. I was trying to get it back to the was on the day of the meeting. So when I opened it, I wanted to actually do it, but not just to be outside. And they came and they did it in this app.
Okay. Any questions amongst board members? Mr. Young?
Any position from or interest from the assessor's office?
Mr. Hattie, the notification that you're talking about is the board's notification about the notice of hearing?
had you let people, had you notified the county that your address was different? No, I mean, before the process, though, I mean. Before this process. Yeah, had they been notified of your current address?
Some offices were, some offices weren't. So when I updated with the clerk or the collector's office, and I thought they would update everybody,
Mhm.
it's not really great. So I have to go to every single office pretty much update it.
Mhm.
Whether I make an application, I have to also go, such as yourself, I have to go and estimate to get a change, and then I'll come back to the other office and have need to get a change there.
Is that true that one change of address doesn't span the, is that true?
Well, I would think, now, the notice that he's referring to is the notice of the scheduled hearing date, which is mailed by the clerk of your board. And it was mailed to the address that appears on the application that you have before you, so they wouldn't know. And so many times, addresses for appeal might be an attorney or an accountant or an agent. I'm sure that would not change. Notifying the tax collector, I can tell you, will not change the address here at the clerk of the board.
And we were not notified of an address change until after the hearing,
As the events unfolded, I mean, you knew at the later time.
right?
The appeal was filed with you on July of '09,
Right.
so there was a considerable length of time until he received a notice, or a notice was mailed to him.
Correct.
Right, those are sent out 45 days ahead of time, so for the March 21st meeting, it wouldn't have gone out until January of 2011. So there's quite a gap of time where the applicant isn't looking for it. And so they don't know when it's been set for hearing and when to look for that mail necessarily. So he
Right.
wouldn't necessarily be worried about the fact that he hadn't received the notice back here in California.
My feeling is that even though he filed this with an Oregon address, it was back in July of '09 that he did it. And that there was plenty of time for him to move or change addresses in between that and the time that the notice was sent to him, even though the clerk may not have been informed of it. So it could be just kind of nobody's fault type of situation.
The underlying rules just say you have to find good cause, and so that's within the discretion of the board.
If it does help the board's decision, Mr. Hattie was contacted on February 14th prior to the meeting by the assessor's office to try to resolve the case, and at that point in time would have been made aware of when he was scheduled for the hearing.
The 14th, prior to the 21st,
Correct.
is
Correct.
that right?
Have that contact?
On February 14th by Mr. Yang from our office, we were contacted about the initial findings for the case so we could try to achieve some resolution prior to coming here. At that point in time, Mr. Yang had apparently had a conversation about the values, and you'd indicated you wanted to think about the suggested changes he was making, and then after that, we didn't receive contact back from you between that February 14th point and the date of the hearing.
That's correct. I did have contact with him, but we didn't speak about that.
No, I don't think Mr. Yang would have been made aware of it. Correct.
And he might not have mentioned that it was coming up in their office because it was scheduled for hearing. So the fact that it was scheduled for hearing might not have been part of that phone conversation.
Oh,
Any further comments, Mr. Young?
no, it's hard to tell.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to either reschedule or deny.
Chairman, I move that we accept as reasonable the causes for non-appearance and allow the taxpayer to return and present his information to us.
And do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We will notify you of your rehearing date.
Can we give him the date now? I mean,
This was filed in,
wait just a minute. Let's see if we can help here.
it was actually filed in July, so we really need to get him to waive the 2-year limit as part of the reconsideration, because we're actually past the 2-year limit now. And so then you can, if he's willing to do that, then you can set it whenever you want. Yeah, because we're actually past it, which didn't matter when it was denied, but it matters now.
So, do we have to put that in writing?
No, he can do it on the record orally.
Okay. Then do you,
But,
want to rescind your,
should we get it in writing, though? Can we just send him the form?
You can
and
do it
have
in
him
writing
fill-
besides if you want, just to confirm
Okay,
it.
the clerk prefers to have it on record.
he will notify you, okay? And you will then, respond in writing that you waive your 2-year limit, and then we will reschedule you for a hearing thereafter.
Since he's come from Portland, correct, today? Can that be done like physically?
Oh, you did? You're back here?
Oh,
Okay.
oh.
Now,
Now, that would have
is there
simplified.
any possibility you're gonna be moving back to Oregon in the next 6 months? Then they will notify you for a written waiver of your 2-year, and then they will reschedule you at that point.
So whatever the rescheduled date is not burdensome to you, since you're physically here, correct? Okay. All right, I like that.
Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, which is a correction of value continued from the June 20th, 2011 meeting. And if I can remember, the applicant in that case appealed the value we held for the assessor. Is that correct?
Right, but if I remember correctly, what happened is that what the board said was $225,000, but what's actually enrolled is the Prop 13 value. And the clerk wasn't comfortable just correcting that on the minutes. She wanted to come back and have the board formally vote
And to establish on that
that the value as of that date
value as of that date.
was the 188,000, not the 225.
Okay. So the 225 is what we were looking for.
The 225 is what you said, that's the full cash value, but what the assessor wants to enroll is the Prop 13 value, which is lower. And they can't do that right now because what you said was the full value. So they need you to make a motion to say that the value on the assessment date was the 188,703. That's on the attachment here on item 6. Is that correct, Mr. Assessor?
That is correct.
Okay, Mr. Hookendorfer, sorry.
703.
Yeah, the 188,703. Yeah. That's showing here on this second page.
So does this, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chair. Does this motion need to refer to the prior motion, or how do you want it said?
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, I think we would make a motion to amend the prior motion and then approve it for the 188,703.
And how should I refer, is that the June 20th motion? Is that the way
Yes.
you'd like it referred to?
June 20th, yes.
What did you say? I'm sorry. 25th or 20th?
20th.
Well, I move that we amend our motion that occurred on June 20th, 2011, and correct the assessed value to be $1,703.
Second.
We have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, now moving on to our regular agenda, item number 7. Jane, Som Revocable Trust, is someone here from them, from their, that applicant?
Mr. Chairman, the remaining people in the chambers here are actually assessor staff. So seems like, correct, sir.
Wow.
Okay.
Oversight, is that what we have here? Well, welcome.
Is there anybody back at the office? Not up there smart.
Okay, well, then in effect, for the remainder of our agenda, we don't have anybody here from the applicants.
That's correct.
So I,
Have we gotten notification of withdrawals from any of these?
We have not gotten notification, but a large majority of these have had verbal agreements to withdraw based on values the assessor's office has been able to come up with for their properties.
But we haven't gotten any written withdrawals to the clerk.
No, the only one we received was a withdrawal from Miguel Ramos,
Number
number
14.
14, which we,
that's on the agenda.
Yeah.
So
What's your pleasure?
I still prefer to, I still recommend that the board deny them for non-appearance, just in case. Because then if something falls apart in the next 30 days with the assessor, they can ask for reconsideration. So
And
that,
would
but
you
you
like-
could certainly do it as one motion for 7 through 13.
And can we simply refer to the agenda item number itself?
Yes,
Is that okay? Okay,
Mr. Young?
here we go.
Okay.
For non-appearance. I move that agenda items 7 through 14,
Let's say 13,
okay.
because 14 is technically a withdrawal.
I move that agenda items 7 through 13 be denied for non-appearance.
Second.
So we have a motion to deny agenda items 7 through 13 for non-appearance. Everyone signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries.
And I think we could lump in number 14 with the withdrawal calendar. All of that is one motion. Unless there's any that anybody needs to.
I'd like to review that list we just got. This is an updated list we got today.
There may, if in case anybody has anything they need to abstain on.
Billy, you want to take that motion?
I don't know, I am, there it is, okay. I just want to make sure I don't have any conflict.
I'm okay with staying.
You're okay with it?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I think Bill's going to take the motion.
I accept, I move that we accept items 14, item 14 on our agenda, and the withdrawal calendar as presented to us as item number 15 as withdrawals.
I second.
Second?
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So, we are down to, closed session, items. We have, here's two. And is there any other, comment before we adjourn the meeting from our legal counsel
Sir?
and assessor? Any other comments?
Nothing for me.
Sir?
Okay, hearing none. The meeting for July 11th, July 18th, 2011 is, public hearing is concluded. We're back on record. Okay. We are back in session for Assessment Appeals Board, July 18th. The case being decided is the final findings of fact for Charter Communication. Do I hear a motion regarding that case?
I move that we accept the final findings of fact for Charter Communication as of this date, July 18th, 2011.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None heard. The motion carries. This concludes our closed session for Assessment Appeals Board, July 18th, 2011.
Thank you.
Good.